Guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here, and this is going to be an interesting one because this morning Nissan dropped this video right here with a bunch of different models and silhouettes and teaser images of their up and coming models. But what grabbed my attention was the specific silhouette that could only belong to one single car, and that is of course the new 400Z, which I think it's going to be called. And that's exactly the car we're going to talk about today. I'm going to show you why, first of all, I prefer the 350Z over the 370Z. And then I'm going to talk about the distinct features that I think were lacking in those models compared to the 240 and the 280Z. And finally, I'm going to take a still frame off this promo video, and then I'm going to see if we can render it, enhance the image of what is given in this video so we can get a better understanding of the key design features of this new Z, and if we can get that rendered in Photoshop. So let's jump in. So let me quickly show you why I prefer the 350Z over the 370Z here. And it comes back to something that I talk about a lot, and that is simplicity in design. I like a I pretty much always prefer a simple, clean looking design over a more complex design with a bunch of lines going on. And the 370Z, it looks like a 350Z that has been out in the sun for too long, and the rear here is starting to become a little bit of melted cheese design. So what I love about the 350 here is that it has such clean lines. So we have the horizontal line here, which is the shoulder line, and then you can see that the C-pillar, that the coupe line here, that the A-pillar then goes into the C-pillar, and it intersects in the graphics of the light. And this is something that I love about this design. It's a tiny detail, but every time I look at this car from a side view, I always notice that, and I kind of appreciate the designer's thought behind it. And then you can see that the A-pillar here goes into the door and continues down here and then goes back up here into the B-pillar. It's just a beautiful, simple, clean looking style for the Z. But the thing that both of these Zs, the 350 and the 370, what they miss is the typical sloping C-pillar that just abruptly ends that we have on the 240, as you can see right here. So if we follow the C-pillar down here, you can see that it doesn't ever come back up. There's no kink here to catch the curvature, and that's kind of what I love about this Z, the 240 and 280. It's such a unique feature. It's a tiny detail of the car, because usually what coupes like this look like, they have a similar curvature to this, but then just right at the end of the line here, they usually go back up a little bit to create a sort of ducktail. And that's what's happening here as well. You can see that in the 350 here, as well as this 370, that they have this little catch here. You can see that the curvature here starts to come back up, and to me that just turns the Z cars into any other regular coupe, and that is why I'm so excited about what they're doing with the 400Z or the Z400 or whatever the new one is going to be called. Because if we look at that from a side view, we can clearly see that the new Z has this original 240 280Z roofline, and that it doesn't have this kink that comes back up in the end of the C-pillar. So we have the same profile here, and this is very similar to the 240Z profile, and that's exactly what they said from early on, that they wanted to create more of a not a retro design, but it may be retro inspired from the 240 and 280. And I think this is exactly what they've done here. So let's have a look at this from another angle. I think this is probably the best angle that we can get from this video, and I have tried to mess around with the saturation and all the exposures and stuff of this to try to figure out if we can, get some more detail into this picture. But I think this is as good as it's going to get for now. But what makes me happy when I see this side of the car is the simplicity of this, because we can see that there aren't any strange graphics going on in the side of the car. And this is also what I've been talking about for such a long time now, that I see happening to more and more car manufacturers, and that is that we are going back to a simpler design language with simpler lines and graphics that are going to become the main identifiers for a brand. It's not going to be, you know, over styling anymore. It's going to have a lot to do with graphical elements of the car that sits inside of a very simplistic body. And I think it's going to have a lot to do with proportions as well. So you're going to have specific proportions for different brands, and that in combination with new graphical elements is going to separate the brands even more than they do today with the overstyling that we have going on today. But looking at this, what this reminds me of specifically in this area right here is an F-Type. It looks a lot like an F-Type, specifically with the C-pillar right here going down here in combination with this shoulder line right here. It's a typical coupe looking style, but I think the difference here is going to be that it just abruptly ends, and it's probably going to have some option that you can add a wing or something in the rear here to have it catch up, or they're gonna make a Nismo version or something like that. But for me, if I were to get this car, I would not put any wings or anything in the rear, because I love the sloping roofline of the original 240Z and the 280Z, and that is something that I would definitely keep in this new version as well. Another thing I want to mention here from this video that we can take out of it is that I think I see some retro inspired rear lights here, and this makes me happy as well, because if you look at the original 240Z and 280Z, they have a very simple graphics in the rear. It just ends, then it's a flat surface with two rectangular rear lights, and I really hope that the new 400Z here is going to have almost like a modernization of that exact style, because it's such a clean looking rear end on the 240Z that if they were to modernize it in combination with this typical Z line here, that would just be a perfect modern version of the 240Z in my opinion. And it looks like we might actually get something like that with this little sneak peek right here. One other noticeable design feature on this car that we can see in this image is that we have a very solid design graphics down here in the bottom of the car. Right here you can see it, you can barely see it, but it's there, and it looks like this continues from the front of the car. So these surfaces right here are surfaces that are going to face upwards, and they are going to create a lighter shade from the rest of the body of the car. I think that is going to look very cool. But other than that, I don't really see any sharp creases in the body of the car. And as I said, I'm really happy about that, even though I do wish sometimes that this shoulder line here in the rear is sharp, because that adds more powerful, specifically to rear wheel drive cars. I think it suits them to have a very powerful rear fender and the lines in the fenders as well, since that is where the power is coming from. But if there is a couple of sharp lines, if they only have the sharp lines down here and skip it up here, I think that's fine for the 400Z here. It's going to look good regardless. And maybe this is a new era for Nissan, where they try to soften up the design and come up with more cloud-like volumes and softer lines. And that's what it looks like from this side view right here. I'm also a huge fan of these headlights here. They are kind of like a modern interpretation of the round ones that were on the original 240Z and the 280Z here. It looks like a modern interpretation. I think probably is going to have some glass cover covering these two lines that we have, and it symbolizes a round headlight. So I think if you look at this from the front view, these two lines are going to look like they are, you know, almost like a circle or two half circles connected, but it's just this angle that makes it look like it's following the line of the front fender. So what I'm gonna do now is to take this still frame from the official video and render it. Take the information that we have here and try to render it into what it might look like when it gets produced. that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think about the Datsun or the Nissan 400Z here. To me, this would rather be called a Datsun because it's such a throwback in the design language to the 240s and the 280s. But let me know what you think about this car. Are you excited about it? Do you like this style or direction that they're going? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. I'm TheSketchMonkey. I will see you in the next video.